Welcome to Unsilent with your hosts Dave and Brian. This is not another current events podcast. We're digging deeper, diagnosing, and discussing what's really going on today, how we got here, and providing observations for future generations.
Welcome to Unsilent. We're Brian and Dave. We'd love to know where you think our commentary is right on the money and where we're completely off base. You can do that by leaving a comment at Rumble or unsilentpodcast.com or a variety of social media channels where America gets to argue with each other. So there's plenty to be exercised about these days, isn't there, Brian?
Yeah, I don't know if you noticed, Dave, this week, but it was slow, but there was a tear in the fabric of the universe. Did you feel it?
Well, yeah, I mean there are some things that you wouldn't have expected in recent history.
But the thing I'm gonna play for you here first, I would like, in a world where everything's fascism and Nazism and everybody's the most extreme descriptor you could come up, good or bad, to describe things.
Hitler-esque.
Before we get to like the big headlines, I think this, which is kind of being not really discussed a whole lot because of all the other headlines we'll get to, but I think there was like a legitimate shift in the force this week.
Okay.
It was so let me share my screen and I'm going to play this clip and show you what I'm talking about. It's only about a 15-second clip, but man, I was blown away when I saw this. Wait till you hear this. If you haven't already, you probably have, but here we go.
All right, here's my last one for you. Can a man become a woman?
Can a man become a woman? No.
Thank you.
No.
That's so easy. Why don't more people in your party just say that?
Because I'm now going to go into a witness protection plan.
So have you seen this, Dave?
I have not seen that one. No, I have not seen that one. And you're right. I mean, yes, we're in an alternate universe. Gravity is reversed. The laws of physics are upside down. Rahm Emanuel actually said that out loud. I wonder.
It's not like Hunter Biden saying it. That's not like some low-level Congress person in the Democrat Party saying that. This is like, top 5 biggest Democrat influencers in the country, I would say. Is that a fair assessment?
Oh, it's 100% fair assessment. I mean, he's one of the more articulate, one of the more, and as you say, one of the more influential people in the Democratic Party. So for him to not equivocate and him and haw around and just say, no, I mean, wow, no, I need to take a pill or something. I don't know. What universe am I in?
There was a tear in the fabric of the universe this week.
Yeah. So now we have him and we have Gavin Newsom. I mean, Gavin Newsom, he regularly contradicts everything he says, but at the same time, he did make a little bit of a shift in that direction about the fairness of the whole men and women's sports thing. But this is the most direct one.
He's a little more go whichever way the wind's blowing. I don't feel that about Rahm Emanuel quite as much. He feels like a guy who's right or wrong, whether you agree with him or not. He feels like, it seems to me, could be completely wrong. He's a politician, so they're all kind of squishy and whatever. But it feels to me like he's a guy who's a little more fully embracing his beliefs, not so go with the wind.
It could be. I mean, maybe that's true. I mean, I still think you can't get that high in the Democratic Party without towing all of the ideological things.
For sure. I guess my point is, if Trump and JD Vance and however many people had to go before the number one Democrat in Congress took over, if there's a massive earthquake or plane crash or whatever, and there's a Democrat in charge, Gavin Newsom would spring back to the old talking points in 0.7 seconds.
Yeah.
I think Rahm Emanuel might be a little more like, hey, let's get back to the center kind of a thing.
Sure. And there's no question that Rahm Emanuel is a very smart guy. I mean, I think he's calculating. I think he's cunning. I think he's very smart. But yeah, no, that blows me away. So my only, when was that clip? When did he say that to Megyn Kelly?
Let me look. It was maybe Monday.
Monday, and it's Wednesday.
So I want to say 2 days ago.
So have you seen any footage outside of his house? I mean, are there people with pitchforks? I mean, any reactions to that you've seen?
It might have been yesterday. It was either Monday or yesterday. It looks like.
But I mean, they should be out there right now with pitchforks and trying to burn the place down by now.
Well, again, I think that was just like completely beyond buried with all the other hoopla that you and I will certainly get to here in a moment. But I thought that was, again, it'll be lost in the history books, perhaps.
Yeah.
Or if Rahm Emanuel, in a world where the Democrats are completely feels to me like rudderless and have no leader of any substance, if he emerged, which I wouldn't be shocked if he did, as the 28 guy and 1, for example, or 1 in 32 or whatever, this might make the history books, but I think it's unlikely at this moment it would be isolated. But that felt like a moment like, holy crap, something is really, like, you and I've been talking about like the pendulum swinging in the other direction and these like abstract ideas. That was substantive, and that was very specific.
Yeah, that could be a real tipping point. I mean, that could be, well, one of the things that he does as a kind of a thought leader, if you want to call it that, in the Democratic Party, is he kind of then gives permission for other people to maybe say, it's been a week. He hasn't been, thrown into Lake Michigan. Maybe he's onto something here. So we'll see.
Yeah. Well, there's a couple of folks that I and again, we'll get to more later, but there's a couple of folks this week that probably should beef up their security. He's probably one of them. And
no doubt.
There's probably. So before we get to the other stuff, though, also along those same lines as Rahm Emanuel now saying that boys can't become girls and men can't become women, the U.S. Olympic Committee officially banned men from competing in women's sports.
Right.
Now, this was directly from pressure from Trump, I'm guessing.
Sure.
I don't think this organically happened. No. It still happened.
Right.
It feels like that whole drive or campaign or movement to put in the what do they call the matrix, the victim matrix? What do you have a name for it? Ben Shapiro talks about this, like
you mean the Overton window?
Intersectionality,
sure. Overton window, intersectionality. Yeah, you bet.
But like, there's a ranking of like who's more of a victim.
Victim hierarchy.
Yeah, victim hierarchy. Okay, that's what I'm talking about. So whatever movement was to put the trans folks at the top of that, they seem to have lost their momentum or funding or whatever. Yeah. Because it's kind of coming unraveled, it feels like, a little bit.
Well, there's no doubt it's coming unraveled. And I think that, I mean, and even though I don't, trust anything that Gavin Newsom says as being authentic other than a calculation, that's, his statement on Charlie Kirk's show, him going on Charlie Kirk's show, Rahm Emanuel going on Megyn Kelly's show. I mean, so we're not talking the Pod Save America guys. It's Megyn Kelly, who's, she's not a hardcore leftist of any sense.
Number one in like news podcasts or political podcasts. I think she's number one. Yeah.
So, I mean, all of those things do push the envelope, and I don't think it's something. I think it is something that is going to be hard to reverse, and it's going to be hard for the hardcore left to turn around. Now they might just get more hardcore from that, but I think also the thing about the trans movement has always been that the only way it has any traction is if it's bolted on, if you will, to the LGB, or really the LG part of it. I mean, so the only reason B in there at all is, I mean, there's nobody who's been fired for being bisexual to my knowledge. I mean, so the only reason,
in fact, some would argue in DC it's a requisite.
Exactly. Well, see, I think the whole notion there is as many people as many oppressed minorities as we can to bolt onto that, so we can have more letters, the better off we are. But the T is kind of dropping off of that now as a useful victim group.
Yeah. Okay. Two other things I'll get to quickly. You and I always talk about how gravity wins, and I think along those same lines, you could argue that math wins.
Yes.
And eventually, math wins. Well, math won in at least one case this week. The Stephen Colbert show was canceled.
Oh yes.
Losing $40 million a year, and he's getting a $20 million salary. And for a late night TV show that like 1 million people watch.
Yeah.
It's getting tremendous uproar from like major, like again, the CNN, the MSNBCs, like there's actual world events happening. And this is, it's just fascinating to me that A, math always wins, just like gravity always wins.
100%.
And B, this is a story in a week where there's no shortage of major stories to talk about. That's what they've been spending a tremendous amount of time on. I thought that was pretty fascinating.
Well, and I think Brian, I think it was either Elizabeth Warren or maybe it was Adam Schiff. It was one of the luminaries of leftist thinking that said something to the effect of this is a constitutional violation that Stephen Colbert was canceled, because it does say it's the 23rd Amendment or something.
I don't remember which one said it, but I do recall hearing that now that you mention it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's of course it's either a violation of that or maybe it's racism or sexism or bigotry or homophobia or something or other.
It's either climate change or racism.
It could be climate change. It's probably all the above, really.
Now that Trump's got reelected, fascism is in that mix now. So everything's either fascism, racism, or climate change. Like before Trump was elected, it was binary, but now we got three. We got a third one in the ring now.
It's Hitler-esque.
The other thing where gravity hasn't quite won yet, but it feels like gravity's inching its way towards winning. Did you see the WNBA, the shirts that they wore amid their contract renegotiation?
Yeah, pay us what we're worth or whatever it was.
Pay us what you owe us.
What you owe us, yeah. What we owe us, yeah.
All right. I found this video where a guy broke down the math because I was wondering what the math was. Like you're a business owner, I'm a business owner.
Yeah.
We both have owned more than one business in our careers. In a situation where you're hemorrhaging cash, let's say to the tune of, I don't know, $40 million.
Right.
How would you assess the employee's place in negotiating a salary increase in that situation?
Well, it would be, so in normal terms, it would be deferred until you're profitable, right? But in this case, they have never, ever in almost 30 years made a profit. So how would I assess it? I would say that it's amazing that you still even have a job. I mean, if you were to assess the WNBA on business terms, they should have been shut down. And I'm not advocating for this. They should have been shut down in the year 2000. They should have been shut down 25 years ago. They should have called it a 3-year experiment. It should have been shut down, which points out that the WNBA is not a business. And therefore, it's not. I had this conversation. I have a dear friend who she calls herself a fourth wave feminist. She's a dear friend. She's smart. I believe almost everything she says. And she posted about this. And I said, look, I have no problem with women's sports. Women's sports are great. She was a former athlete herself, et cetera. I said, the only thing that the WNBA exists for, objectively speaking, is as a PR arm of the NBA. That's its purpose for existing. And therefore, pay us what you owe us is a nonsensical statement. It makes, because there is nothing owed for a PR arm. It's a nonprofit.
Yeah. And I would also add to that, I'm not a historian. I don't even like basketball, honestly. Like, I don't mind playing horse and, that kind of thing. But
my favorite sport. What are you talking about?
Watch basketball. Like, basketball is one of the things I just can't watch on TV that many people I know and enjoy watching. It's never been for me. I went and saw Michael Jordan play when he came to Seattle when I lived up there, and that was cool. Those kinds of one-off kind of things, but was never my thing. So I'm not
too slow for you. It's too slow for you.
Right. Yeah. And I'm just jealous that I can't play it. I'm not Spud Webb. So, but if we go back to that era you mentioned around 2000, if my memory serves, there was no shortage of news stories about NBA players having very abusive relationships with women.
Yes.
Having multiple children with multiple women.
Yep.
Having many affairs and kind of getting caught up in courts about child support and stuff like that. It feels to me like there was an era, and I couldn't tell you the years because I'm not a historian. I couldn't tell you the names of the players because I don't keep track of that stuff. But it seems like there was about a 10-year span where there was a lot of negative press about NBA players doing pretty not so great things to women.
Yes.
And this kind of came along in that era. It felt to me, or it feels to me, kind of like a what do you call it? Like a payment of sorts to,
right? Yeah, it's a recompense essentially for all the
goodwill to kind of either distract, like the Wizard of Oz kind of distraction, or we know we screwed up, and here's what we're helping women to compensate. It felt okay. So there's that. That again, I'm not a historian. I'm going to get hung up in the weeds on that, but they lose $40 million a year. they're subsidized $15 million a year by the NBA.
Right.
So they still lose $25 million a year. Now, Amazon lost gobs of money for the first, 10 years it was in business.
Sure. Yeah.
But there was investors because they had a belief that there would be a day where it became successful, which ultimately it was the biggest company in the world for a while, the most profitable or biggest market cap or whatever. But this guy did the math on how much the WNBA players would earn if they were paid what they were owed based on the profitability of the organization.
Sure.
So they lose $25 million a year divided by how many players are there? Gosh, it didn't say how many players are, but they each get $148,000 a year to play. I can't remember how many players are. Anyhow, they would end up owing $29,000 each for the privilege of paying if they were paid what they were owed.
If they're paid what they're owed. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Well, and so I think that's where you have to come down and say it's fine if the NBA, every organization should have a PR budget so they maintain goodwill in the community and all that kind of stuff, and that's what they're doing, and God bless them for doing it. But yeah, the whole rest of that is very awkward, and it also does point out, I think, that you can't just take you can't just say that there's equality of outcome. This is another one of those scenarios where equality of outcome is not an effective measure, because the outcome of the NBA is hundreds of millions of dollars of profitability. The outcome of the WNBA is a loss, and we're doing it for marketing purposes.
Yeah, I don't know. It feels to me like this stuff is kind of on its last breath, because
I think so. Yeah.
Gravity always wins. The math always wins. People can't afford to just keep doing this
right
forever. But the thing that I'm just really focusing on more than anything is this idea that we want to do this thing, and therefore we're owed money to do this thing. We're owed the same fame and fortune as people who do this in a manner that collects eyeballs and advertising and gets paid to do this. We're owed the same thing because we have a desire to do that. Like that, and explaining to Kenny G, the guy we're talking to 70 years in the future as we're doing this podcast, there was an undercurrent of that 30 years ago.
Sure.
And now it's the tide. Like it's the movement. It is one of the overwhelming thought processes is, I want to do this thing. I can claim some kind of victimhood. Therefore it's owed to me.
Right.
And that simple calculus is driving this stuff, and and it's been happening, but it just feels to me like it's on its last.
It's unwinding.
And then one other quick thing on math and numbers: there was a concert done for the LA fires 6 months ago or so. So LA fires were like 6 months ago, and there's a concert like a month after that or a few weeks after that, where they raised $100 million for quote victims of the fire. Unquote, right. I believe I'm getting that right. They brought in Rod Stewart and Stevie Wonder and all, these Lady Gaga and rappers I don't know and things like that. They brought in all these famous people and did this concert. People gave money in charitable ways. Not one of the victims has received a single penny.
Oh, wow.
And the organization Fire Aid has basically said, well, that was never our intention, was to give like the homeowners some money. We have no means of doing that. We gave it to approved nonprofits who will disperse the money as they see fit to help the community.
Right.
So the people who actually got the money were places like minority political associations to help, with voting, Native American things. And there's like 12 Native Americans live in Pacific Palisades. Right. Native American, whatever organization got a boatload of money. Like it's all these things that are just the shell game nonstop with people's good intentions and money, including tax money. But in this case, actual like donations.
I hadn't heard that one. It doesn't surprise me. That's crazy. I mean, a lot of it's very similar to, it's money laundering, right? I mean, at the end of the day, it's money laundering because to favor groups. That's like a number of the ways that USAID had done a lot of what they had done was essentially money laundering. It's like, we're going to put money into this development fund and it's going to be beneficial. And there's this big narrative, and then it ends up going to places that never actually help anybody at all. I mean, there's legitimate uses too, but there's plenty of places that they find that we're wasting hundreds of millions, if not billions of dollars.
Yeah, one of the things I was thinking as I was listening to Karen Bass talk earlier, the mayor of LA, she was talking about the illegal immigrant thing, and now it's gone. First of all, it's gone from illegal immigrant to illegal alien to illegal immigrant to undocumented alien to undocumented immigrant, and now she calls them undocumented workers.
Yes, yeah.
So her perspective was the federal government getting rid of these undocumented workers in LA is a travesty because they're the ones that like do the work. And as she's saying this, I'm thinking, are they the ones issuing permits to rebuild structures in LA? Because if so, that would explain why there's 0 permits been issued so far. But if they're not, like, okay, we can if you're a mayor of a major city, I would think you could like juggle 2 things, 2 concepts. One, okay, she has a belief she wants to protect these quote unquote undocumented workers, and also thousands of people lost their homes and 0 permits have been issued. Maybe that's something we should look into as well.
Although I wouldn't bet too much money on when that's going to get looked into. Well, and I still wonder, there's a lot of people that were speaking out about the failures of Karen Bass and Gavin Newsom and all the failures during the fires. Where have they gone? I mean, you just don't hear them in the news cycle anymore, about what's actually happening with, and it's probably because they're mostly people that are quite well off and, they're not worthy of paying attention to in the news cycle.
Yeah. All right. So that's all again, in most times these would be like major
big stories.
Like this fire thing would be a story
it's a scandal. $100 million. It's a scandal.
Yeah. It would be at least theft, if not money laundering, like you said. However, this week, a pretty big bombshell was dropped. So you're better at this stuff than I am for sure. So tell Kenny G, and some of the stuff I kind of think is going to go down 2 ways.
Yeah.
One is going to be, this was a pivotal moment in country where we got back on track in 70 years. They're going to look back at this moment this week.
Sure.
And the other one was, this was a bunch of nonsense. Look what these buffoons tried to do. And that's why you got to worry about fascists like those people. Like, it seems like you can only go down one of those 2 paths, right?
Right.
But explain to Kenny G from your perspective, based on all this stuff is coming out by the hour. What the heck happened this week, Dave?
Well, so regarding the Russiagate whole thing, of course, we had as soon as Trump got into office in 2016, during his previous term, there was no explanation for that among the left, because the left had, of course, a 40-year kind of lock on the news, and there's nobody. Trump couldn't have got in. So the only way he could have got in is if there was Russian interference, if the Russians put him in, if they changed the votes, if they influenced the election and all that. And so, of course, we had the Steele dossier, which was, and there's a bunch of sordid details in there that turned out to be completely false. And they ran with that. And, Adam Schiff basically spent most of his time during those 4 years on CNN talking about how the next shoe was going to drop and Trump's going to go to jail, and because he's a Russian asset, he's a puppet of Vladimir Putin, etc. So
Schiff kept saying he had seen all this information firsthand, and it's going to come out and it's going to prove he committed treason and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah, he had all that, and all the Democrats were, on board, and of course the late night people were on board with that, and it was the thing. It was kind of, and they spent, I don't know how much, if it's billions or hundreds of millions or tens of millions, they spent millions and millions of dollars investigating all this. Well, of course, this week what came out, a lot of the documents that were official government documents came out that showed that was actually that it was a hoax. There's nobody at all could claim at this point there was anything legitimate about that. It's just not possible to claim that anymore with a straight face. Now, if I would have said that, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, or something like that, that's a conspiracy theory. Oh, you're part of QAnon or whatever it is. But now there's,
and you would have been canceled somewhere. Like,
sure,
a YouTube channel, maybe that would have been gone away, or
yeah, absolutely.
Customers would have fired you, or employees would have quit, or.
Yeah, it would have been. It would have been a scandal. It would have been a scandal to say that that's not true. Oh, you're doubting the news. You're 51 intelligence experts. All this stuff. Now that was a Hunter Biden one, but it just falls in all in the same category. But this week we have actual government documents. We're not talking about media documents. There's actually government documents that say it was coordinated at the highest level in Barack Obama's White House. And of course, President Trump has come out in very Trumpian fashion and said that Obama is guilty of treason, and the Justice Department is investigating. And oh my gosh, this is an earthquake of monumental proportions in terms of this. Literally, there was collusion. There was collusion, but it wasn't collusion on Trump's part with Vladimir Putin. It was collusion on a number of high-ranking officials in the Obama administration and a lot of it right after the election of Donald Trump the first time around. And it's very sordid. And it's what, you see all these memes about, I'm looking for the next conspiracy theory because every conspiracy theory I believed in has come true. You see a lot of that kind of stuff. And it is pretty earth-shaking. Even Obama himself has come out defensively against that, which he's been pretty quiet. Not as quiet as a lot of presidents, not as quiet as George Bush, but he's been pretty quiet about various things Trump has said, and he's come out defensively on that. So here we are with a criminal referral over for a lot of this stuff to the Justice Department to investigate. So that's a monumental earthquake. It's just a gigantic earthquake.
Yeah, the other thing that was wrapped up in this is the Hillary Clinton stuff.
Oh yes,
that's if I'm understanding, you tell me where I'm getting this wrong, but my understanding, and I watched the Tulsi Gabbard thing that was on today a couple times because there's so much to digest there. But one of the things, if I understood correctly, was that Russia actually did have information on a candidate in 2016, but they had it on Hillary Clinton, and they had information suggesting that she was on very heavy tranquilizers. She was dealing with psychotic, emotional, like major situations and whatever. Right. And they were hanging on to that, presuming she would win, to then blackmail, like hold it against her. Right. Hey, you know what? The stuff released, we better work out a good deal here, kind of a thing, right? Which is 180 degrees from what the news was saying at the time. Yeah. And so, looking back now at all the odd behaviors of her around that time, like the googly eye thing she was doing that one time and being shuffled into the van. And that weird, like over exaggerated facial expression, like so many just like peculiar instances and situations where it's like, yeah, well, now all that stuff has a whole new context, right? Yeah. But also getting in my time machine, going back 8 years, or 7 years, whatever, 9 years now. It's so hard to go back that far, 10 years, I guess, actually, in some cases. But the words that were being tossed around by the likes of Adam Schiff and Hillary Clinton and Chuck Schumer and Pelosi and these heavyweights in the Democratic Party were things like about Donald Trump were treason, collusion, sedition. Yeah. I could make a pretty compelling case. Not that I would win in court. I'm not a lawyer, but like from a layperson's perspective, I can make a pretty good case for collusion, sedition, and treason in all three of those things that were just being thrown around. Like it was the number of hours on TV sets by CNN, MSNBC, and all these places and podcasts and stuff like that. It's got to be in the hundreds of thousands of just hours each. Collectively, all these outlets committed to these ideas. And it keeps going back to, for me, it keeps going back to, they always accuse the other person what they're doing. Yeah, exactly. And it turns out in this case, it seems like that's actually legitimately, like, no BS. These aren't barroom conversations that were kind of sort of recorded and the audio is off and things. Right. This isn't that. These are official government documents, like, proving this, like, beyond a shadow of a doubt so far, it seems like. Well, in the part that is the most damning about all of that with those government documents, you could, I wouldn't say excuse, but you could almost understand how the left-wing media, the partisan media, would be parroting all of the conspiracy theories that they were operating under. But the part that's the most damning in this
to me is hearing after hearing after hearing, and at the House, at the Senate, all of these different things that were happening in an official capacity, when in theory all of these people were probably, and they're all on the Democratic side, were probably read in to the information that apparently President Obama had, and apparently he was involved with. So that does go to the level of conspiracy and undermining the basic role of government as protector of truth, justice, and the American way. So that's the part that's really the damning part.
The institutions that they so fervently claim to care about. Like
Right.
you and I talked about many times about how the left is very much, they're all in on the institutions.
Yes.
And more conservative people are like, actually, we don't really trust the institutions. We're actually looking out for the individual and that kind of thing. For people who are so hell bent on protecting the institutions, this is anything but that. Like this is just, we want our way.
That's corruption. It's corruption at the highest level. I mean, especially because it's happened started immediately after he was elected. I mean, just immediately.
I think it started in like July, before the election even, didn't it?
Well, yeah.
When the Crossfire Hurricane or whatever that was, where that's where they started tapping his phones, and then they Trump Tower, and then they denied it. And
that's true. Yes.
This is where, in my opinion, 60 Minutes jumped the shark was when Leslie Stahl is interviewing Trump, and he's talking about this stuff, and he's saying, Leslie, they tapped my phones. They were spying on my campaign. And she's like, sir, we're a legitimate news organization. Sir, we can't say that on here. Like, that's the moment for me that like 60 Minutes went from being this apex, them in 2020 when I was growing up, were like those, Hugh Downs and like those guys were like the pinnacle of like trustworthy news. And like that's when they jumped the shark.
Well, they've already apologized, right? Oh, I guess maybe not.
I haven't heard that. Although CBS did have to write a $36 million check to Trump for the thing they did with Kamala Harris's video.
The editing, the deceptive editing.
And then I think who was the other one that had to write him like a $12 million or $16 million check? Oh, is it who's a Stephanopoulos? Is that the guy's name?
Well, Stephanopoulos was before, and I don't remember I think that one was like the 30 million. I think the most recent one for the Harris interview was like 16 million. So there's lots of people writing checks, a lot to
I don't know if they're issuing apologies, but they're certainly issuing checks.
They're issuing big time checks. Well, and of course we'll probably hear Adam Schiff come out one of these. Well, maybe we won't hear him come out and apologize.
Well, I don't. It's so funny. Like, it's separate. I won't get like too many topics at one time, but you got Letitia James and Adam Schiff now, who are all of a sudden in their own legal trouble. Like, apparently there's some mortgage fraud that may have been committed, and some other kinds of fraud that may have been committed. And millions of dollars have disappeared in the New York State area that somehow she might have been whatever. Okay, so explain to what this is like to Kenny G. Again, in a world where everything is hyperbole has taken over every conversation anybody ever has anymore, it seems like, and everything's the most extreme Nazism, the most extreme fascism, and they're the most despicable people, they and the other tribe, whichever side you're on. Even in that world, though, it can we understate what a big deal this is?
No, because this really. Here's how I would put it. This really undermines the entire system by which they operated. So they operated in a system. So if you look at President Obama and Adam Schiff and Elizabeth Warren and all the people that promulgated this terrible lie, this conspiratorial lie. I hate to use the word conspiracy because there are, I've had years of being surrounded by conspiracy theories, so I dislike them. But this is a legit quote unquote conspiracy, and the thing that's interesting to me is they thought they could get away with it. The reason most conspiracies, and they did for a long time, the reason most conspiracies theories are ultimately, proven wrong is because you can't get away with a big conspiracy. But they thought they could get away with this, and they were largely they got away with it the entire time of the entire first Trump administration and arguably through the Biden administration. And now they are not getting away with it. So their entire operating system, the operating system of we own the institutions so we can make them do whatever we want them to do, and we can say to the public whatever we want to say to support whatever narrative we have, because the narrative is all and the facts are not important. The facts exist to feed the narrative. That all has been peeled away. It's been peeled away in a way that clearly they didn't expect. Clearly President Obama didn't expect. Clearly Adam Schiff and AOC and all of the others didn't expect. And that's what's, to me, incredibly fascinating about all of this.
Yeah, I would even go a step further and say, instead of saying, I would phrase it that they didn't believe they would get away with it. They knew they would get away with it. Because what force could possibly stop them? I mean, Obama, again, I voted for Obama the first time. I was much younger and didn't have the understanding I have now. And I don't necessarily even regret it. I based on what he was selling, I was buying.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
But he is called the Messiah of the Democrat Party for 15 years.
Yeah.
And you and I talk about one of the Achilles heels of progressivism and this Marxist, socialist, communist movement we're kind of experiencing is hubris.
Yes.
And narcissism. And it feels to me like that ultimately might be the thing that it leads to their undoing is they're so cavalier, so confident,
right,
so flagrantly violating not just it's more than the system. It's the spirit in which we are supposed to be based upon that. We can argue and we're considered brash across the globe and Americans are outspoken and we have this reputation of doing those things, and we honor our elections and we have peaceful transitions of power and we vote next time. And like those things happen at once. And when I was growing up, we were proud of those things. Those were features, not bugs. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And so this feels like it not only undermines it, it guts it. It completely reshapes what the country would be. And so now as a result, there's three camps that I see developing in the populace as this unfolds. One is, of course, the CNN crowd that's like, nothing to see here.
Right.
This is a bunch of nonsense. In fact, I have a clip. I won't show it because I already showed one clip, but there's, this guy here is quoted on CNN as saying, "This is hardly information we should be repeating and spending that much more time on." Like, so you got the camp that's like, this is all nonsense.
Right. Move on.
And that's by and large anybody left of center.
Right.
Or meaningfully left of center anyway. Then you've got on the more conservative side, you got the get the posse.
Right.
And then you have the other camp that's like, nothing's going to happen. Yeah, it sucks, but what are you going to do? It feels to me like those are the three camps that are kind of emerging. Is that a fair assessment on?
I think that's generally true. I think that's generally true. I mean, there's no question that the left camp is we can't talk about this. It's too damaging, and and there will be a bunch of people that will, Whoopi Goldberg will say this is all racism against Barack Obama because we're black president.
Yeah.
So that
somehow
whole
climate change will get tied into it. Fascism and racism are already there because
that's right.
They're baked in,
so there's that. There will be the antithesis of that, which is arrest Obama, put him in jail, that type of thing, which is a very dangerous place to be too. And then there's I would take that middle camp and say, I don't know what it's going to be yet. There's sort of a middle ground there, because it's a very dangerous moment, it seems to me, Brian. And the danger, one of the things that I'm going to tie into this as well, I was thinking about this earlier today, is when Trump was charged with 38 and convicted with 38 felonies, that kind of opened the door for whatever happens with Obama.
Yep.
So, and it's an incredibly dangerous thing. That was, I knew when that happened, and I think you and I talked about it. I knew when that happened, this is going to open the door for whenever there's a change in which party sits in the White House, the things are gonna explode. The danger here, of course, is that, I mean, somebody's got to be held accountable for these things. At the same time, if Obama is perp walked, which I don't think will happen, but if he is, then if Trump isn't too old when he's out of office, he'll be perp walked. They'll find something. It won't happen to Biden because he won't know what's going on.
It seems to me that the Supreme Court solved this problem for us because they ruled.
You mean with
yeah. They ruled that a president cannot be charged with official acts while in office or something, like that. So you could, I would argue, even as a guy who is like 100% against all the things that we're learning that happened.
Yes.
I would also argue, like, talking to the top FBI guy and top CIA people, like those are official acts. So I can dislike them and also honor what the Supreme Court said, that you can't charge a guy, because I agree with you. Like the alternative is chaos, and the alternative is you have to have a different governing structure than what we have.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I don't believe that Obama will be perp walked. It would be fascinating for him to be called to Congress to testify and have watch him take the fifth 97 times. That would be pretty. I could see a world where that kind of thing could happen.
That should be the outcome. By the way, I think that should be the outcome. The outcome should be not one in which Obama or Brennan, Brennan or Clapper or Comey, I'll entertain what happens with those guys. But
the Supreme Court has not ruled that the top CIA director cannot be charged for official acts, and the top FBI director cannot be like that. They did not say that.
Yeah, exactly. So I wouldn't have the same reaction as Obama being charged. But I think what really has to happen here, the thing for Obama in particular, is if he is called before and if he is humiliated, that would destroy his legacy.
That would be worse than prison for him.
It would. And so that is what this has to be completely litigated. It's got to be completely. I disagreed with Obama on 110 things. But I also don't want to see a former U.S. president treated in a partisan way. So I want him to be treated in a just way. But if all of this is as it appears to be, then he needs to be brought before Congress, and he needs to be interrogated, and he needs to try to defend himself, and his legacy needs to be sufficiently tarnished. There are some people that will always believe he's the Messiah and all that kind of stuff. Fine, whatever. But that's what needs to happen. That would be an enactment, in my estimation, of justice.
Yeah, I would also say, aside from the part where if you start hauling presidents into court and prison after they leave office, first of all, the caliber of people you're going to get to run for that office is going to diminish significantly.
Yes, exactly. Oh, my word.
And also, you would have to have a new structure of government to. It would that couldn't work. So, in a very pragmatic sense, like, okay, even though I can't believe I'm even hearing that a guy would do this, I can't even state how angry and pissed off and astonished and dismayed and all the adjectives there. Okay,
exactly.
And I would also say, separate from the government would be chaos if we did it that way. I also believe that people we elect, including the president, which is the only office nationally elected, that's on us. Like, electing that guy is on us.
Sure.
Comey was appointed. Clapper was appointed. Brennan was appointed. That's on them.
Yes.
For me, there's a distinction there, and I'm not sure if it's even a rational distinction, and maybe I'm justifying more than anything, but that there is a distinction there of who we elect and dumb things they do.
Absolutely.
Versus who's appointed and dumb things they do.
No, I think it's spot on, Brian. I think that is rock solid, spot on, and I think that those that are in those positions, if they can be shown to have committed a partisan, malicious act like that to try to subvert the legal process, I think the book should be thrown at them. I think they should spend time in jail. How else are you going to dissuade Now, it's going to be hard to dissuade a partisan 4-year president from, doing, there's a lot of latitude there. There's a whole bunch of latitude there. But I think if you surround that person with people that are like honestly concerned about whether if they break the law or not, they're going to end up in jail later on, I think that is a great set of checks and balances for the republic to have. We didn't used to need that in the way that we do now, but I think that would be, if Clapper is charged, if Brennan is charged, then let it go to court, let it happen, even if he gets an ankle bracelet and house arrest, let it happen. I'm not at all, concerned about that.
I have no reservation about those kinds of guys being tried and going through the entire legal system anywhere near the same way I do the president, the vice president. There's certain roles that the consequences of going down that path are just so much more severe than not going down that path.
Exactly right.
And again, I would go back into, I think for a guy like Obama, probably any politician, but Obama seems to have a pretty healthy opinion of himself, I would say.
You think?
And I believe for people like that, legacy is probably the only thing they care about at the end of their term.
Yeah.
And if that is destroyed during their lifetime,
right,
I don't think any prison sentence could come close to meeting that as far as consequences.
Especially Obama. I don't think that's true of Trump. I think he's like call me whatever you want to call me. I don't care. But I think
I still think Trump wants the Trump wing to be the biggest, beautifulest, whatever presidential wing.
Sure. But I think in some ways he's got an ego bigger than Obama. But in other ways, Obama cares more. I think about his.
I would agree.
He wants to be thought of. He wants to be on Mount Rushmore and all that kind of stuff. Yep. I don't think that's as much the case with Trump.
Yeah, I would agree. Even though Trump would probably be more likely to say, Trump should be on Mount Rushmore.
Oh yeah,
I agree with you. I think that Obama actually cares more, which is not going to make sense. And people who hear us say this are going to say we're just completely partisan in our minds. But that's my perspective. What can I say?
Exactly.
All right, so. The only wrinkle I would throw at this is I heard something today and I couldn't find it before we came on, but I saw it and I didn't think to save it fast enough. But I heard a little thing about they may have also done this to Trump in the 2024 election.
Oh, really? I haven't heard that.
Whatever this group of conspirators. Now, when you said this is a legitimate conspiracy, I think you and I are on the same page. A conspiracy is two or more people, plotting and seeing a crime through. Right?
Yes.
That's the definition I'm using for this, right?
Totally.
If that same cohort did the same things in 24, well, now it's an ongoing conspiracy post office.
Yeah.
Meaning if I didn't hear that Obama was involved in 24, but if, for example, he was, that is not an official act of a president anymore.
Right.
It's an ongoing conspiracy, and the statute of limitations on some of these other things would not have passed because it just happened last year, not 8 years ago or whatever, 9 years ago. That opens up a whole new can of worms. I honestly, I hope they didn't do it again in 24.
Yeah.
If they did, it's going to be way, way, way worse.
Well, see, that's where you cross the line into what I would call treason. Yeah. So, when Trump says, for instance, Obama's guilty of treason, maybe that's the right word for it. Maybe not. I kind of, Trump is Mr. Hyperbole. But if there's an ongoing conspiracy that's stretched into 24 post-election, then that is treason at that point. That is insurrection at that point. And I don't, I don't use those words lightly. I don't like to play that. But that would legitimately, I think, fall into those categories.
So that I would say that piece is way more speculation than the other stuff we talked about, which is much more concrete.
Yeah.
The other thing that I did save. There's a clip. So now what's funny now for Kenny G to know that, the internet has done wonderful things for us is there's lots of information out there, but there's such a volume of information for any one person to catalog any of this stuff, like what's happened over the last 10 years. It's impossible. But there's people who actually do it.
Sure.
There's people who actually save these video clips. And then when a thing is highlighted, they're like, well, actually, here's what this person said about this in 2019 or whatever.
Right.
These people, like the amount of time and resources they have has got to be just off the charts. But there's a clip of Harry Reid, Senator Harry Reid, who was like a big deal.
Oh, yeah.
In 2016 on CNN It's a 30-second clip of him saying he thinks what the intel agency should do to Trump elect in 2016 is give him false intelligence reports.
Really?
On CNN. Actually, here I'll pull up and play it.
Oh, I haven't heard that one.
30-second clip. This won't take too long, but yeah, I'll play this one because it's and so my what I'm getting at is not so much the Harry Reid thing in this one specific case, but the people who have the time and resources and whatever to do this kind of thing. This is just going to be the beginning. This is the end. There's going to be so many of these kinds of things. Yeah. So here's Harry Reid on CNN in 2016.
And what I've suggested, if now because he's the nominee for the party, and he's entitled to briefings from the CIA, for example, I said publicly, give him fake briefings. Pretend you're briefing him. Don't tell him anything that you don't want to get out.
But as a Republican nominee, isn't he entitled to get those briefings?
Give him fake briefings.
What does that even mean?
It means they'll tell him stuff. He won't know the difference.
You're basically telling the intelligence community to lie to him.
No, I'm not going to lie to you, but I just don't have to tell you everything. Oh, I said publicly, give him fake briefings.
Wow, I had not seen that.
So again, for me, it's way less about Harry Reid saying that as much as going to be. There's going to be I anticipate at least a tremendous volume of those kinds of videos coming out that have a whole new context now. Again, the tinfoil hat bunch of those of us who are like, something's not quite right here. Can't put my finger on it, but I know something's not quite right. These kinds of things are going to have a whole new level, a whole new context now.
Well, you know what that indicates to me, Brian, is like you say, it's not so much about Harry Reid, but Harry Reid, as you say, was a power broker. He's passed away, but it indicates to me how they think about their role.
Yeah.
How because the role of the elected politician, the role of the bureaucrat, the role of the government employee is supposed to be subservient to the Constitution and the laws and the statutes and et cetera of the United States.
The citizens.
That's what it's supposed to be. That's what it's supposed to be. So, however, that attitude that he shared there, and he was, maybe that was near the end of his life. I don't remember exactly when he passed away, but it wasn't all that long after that. That attitude is one of an aristocrat, is one of, well, we can't let this guy into our club. Just tell him when he shows up with the club membership card and wants to have dinner at the club, tell him we're closed for the evening for renovations or something like that. All the
tables are full.
Tell them everything's full. Exactly. So it is the attitude of an aristocrat, not the attitude of a public servant. And if that can be shown that is common to him and to Adam Schiff and Elizabeth Warren, and you go down the list of people, then that is when that whole system begins to unwind a lot more. And then connecting that also back to where we started this podcast today and Rahm Emanuel's statement, maybe there are people like Rahm Emanuel doing mea culpa. Well, it's not even a mea culpa. It's just like I got to get something out there that prevents me from being caught up in this whole downward spiral, this circling of the drain that's happening. It wouldn't surprise me at all. But that's what's, I think, the big part there.
Yeah, I think I heard somebody say this. I don't remember where it was, on a video I was watching or a podcast I was listening to or something. They basically talked about how, there's classes in every society. India has a very structured public, everybody knows the caste system there and things like that. And we have a version here, but it's more behind the scenes. And their point that they were making was Americans are kind of okay understanding there's a hierarchy of classes. You're going to have billionaires and decamillionaires and things like that who have access that we don't have, us regular folks don't have, and have influence we don't have. And they more or less get to decide who runs for office, and we get to choose between the couple options we're handed. But his point was Americans are okay with that. Yeah. We're not okay with this Harry Reid thing of in your face, we will decide the choices you make, how they will navigate what we want them to do. And there's a difficult to explain difference there, but there is a difference. And his point was that's where Americans draw the line. That's where Americans get pissed and get their muskets.
Well, we have a tolerance. We're cynical. to a degree, and we have a tolerance for politicians, they lie. We have a tolerance for a certain amount of that. Just like, I mean, you mentioned India, it's a good example. The caste system was outlawed there, 50, 100 years ago or something like that, but it still kind of exists. But then they've got a tolerance for that, just like we have a tolerance for lying politicians. But you're right, only to a limited degree, you cross that line. And the problem, like with that clip, is that he apparently did not realize, he got away with it though. I mean, here we are,
I would say it's the same hubris and same narcissism as if Obama was involved in this. It's the same behavior.
Yeah.
I get to do what I want. I've achieved this level of status in the government, and I'm a big player. And what the hell are you going to do about it?
Right. Let them eat cake.
Right.
Bottom line, let them eat cake. And that usually ends with how, French Revolution types. Well, hopefully it won't end that way here.
But a French Revolution, I heard something about an American Revolution. This story's been played out before almost.
It has.
It has. Like it happens every once in a while or something.
Yep, it does. It's common in history.
So what, if it was up to you, what happens next?
Well,
no crystal ball, but like if you were in charge, if you were appointed special counsel or whatever to take the next steps, what would you do? And more specifically, would you try to convince the people who say this is all nonsense, the CNN crowd, or would you just like, those guys are not going to come on board anyway, we're just going to follow the facts? Or would you try to make a case that was compelling enough to try to get them to see it?
Yeah. So first of all, I wouldn't do any conclusions up front. So I would build my case. I would patiently and slowly, I mean, not over a period of years, but I would patiently and slowly build my case. I would call various people before Congress. I would send people out to keep the story alive on, podcasts and talk shows and all that kind of stuff. And I would do it in a inquisitive form. I'd say, you're on Joe Rogan and you're like, yeah, we've seen some disturbing information here. Now we need to follow this to it. We can't make a conclusion. We can't say that, Obama's guilty. We're not at that point yet, but they need to slowly and methodically build the case. They need to, and they need to then in, a few months or something, bring Obama before the, House Select Committee on this or that or the other thing, whatever it happens to be, appoint a special counsel. They need to do all of that, and they need to do it starting in maybe late fall. They need to let the thing organically build, I think. And then it needs to conclude with some kind of firm conclusion by March, April. Something like that. And the reason for that time frame is because, there's always a political component to everything. We got the elections in November of 26. That's going to happen. And this needs to be, if something is going to be happening meaningfully in the country, I'm not talking about electing Republicans here. I'm not talking, that's a thing that I would rather have happen than have Democrats take the House of the Senate. Okay, so I'm fully owning of my own biases and partisanship. But that's not my main concern here. My main concern is that a system that allows that has to be dismantled in such a way that it is more likely to not happen in the future than to happen in the future. And the only way that happens is if those that have done it in the past have to pay some sort of penalties. They have to be brought to account some way that actually costs them political power. And that's why the people that did that need to lose influence, need to lose face, they need to lose credibility, and they need to be humiliated in public before the 26 elections. That's the way that I think that needs to happen.
Is there any part of you that thinks this is all nonsense?
No. My first response to anything that I see on any news media that would fall into that category of conspiracy is hesitancy. I'm always hesitant on those things. Well, Obama did this. So my first response when I first saw it, I was like, well, I don't know. But at this point, no, there is no part of me that thinks that this is some kind of wackadoodle, Alex Jones conspiracy at this point. This seems to me, and I wouldn't say that if I was at all hesitant, I would say it because conspiracies bug me, but I don't think this is one.
You know what, the Trump saga, not just the presidencies, but the saga, reminds me of one of the. I don't know if you ever read these when you were a kid. Aesop's Fables.
Oh, sure, of course.
Okay. I remember. I don't even know why I remember this one. I didn't study Aesop's Fables. I think I read the book like a book like 3 times or something
Sure.
like that. But there was one where there was a guy in a pig calling contest, where in the fable, the idea was they had a contest in the town square of who could do their best version of a pig call to sound like a
Right.
pig, right? And they had 7 or 10 guys or whatever, they're doing their thing, and the guy that they mocked the most had a pig under his coat and was twisting the pig's ear to squeal when they called on him to do his pig call. But I don't remember the details of the fable and all the intricacies of it, but he was scoffed and scorned and all,
Right.
belittled and things like that. And then all of a sudden he reveals that because he was looked upon poorly by the community.
Right.
And so then he unveils that actually I have a pig under my coat. The Trump saga feels like that to me.
Yeah.
Like he always turns out to be mostly right.
Yeah, yeah. Well, and the reason I think that people doubt him is because of his mannerisms, oftentimes not because of his facts. He's right on a lot of this stuff, and he's just doubted because they're all saying it is the okay, that's cool.
Everyone knows it, Dave.
Everyone knows that.
All right. So when we started this, we were talking about Rahm Emanuel, and I said there was 2 people I think need to beef up their security. I would say Tulsi Gabbard needs to beef up her security.
Oh yeah, because she might be Clinton.
It's like The Godfather, where like I'm a superstitious man. If a bolt of lightning were to hit my son, if a train were to hit him, if there was a car accident, if he dies of a heart attack, like that. I mean, she has put herself in the most precarious situation I can even imagine in a place like Washington, D.C.
Yeah, no, you're right. And that's because she's really, if this unravels the way it looks to be unraveling, it is an attack on the entire system, the entire sort of, pay for play, et cetera, the whole thing for
it's one
decades.
thing to go after Hillary Clinton. It's another thing to go after James Comey. It's another thing to go after Brennan. You go after the Messiah. I mean, you're asking for it.
Oh yeah, you're on notice. You better keep an eye out over your shoulder.
Yeah. Well, as I mentioned before, the point of this podcast for Dave and I is to explain to future generations what this moment in time is like, as they're no doubt going to look back and say, "What the hell are those people thinking? What was wrong with them?" We'd love to get your input. Where do you think we got it right? Where do you think we got it wrong? You can do that at unsilentpodcast.com, or Rumble has a great comment section. You can chime in there. Dave and I, of course, give our perspective, but we're only 2 people, so we'd love to, we'd love for your thoughts and feelings about what's going on to be passed forward to future generations as well. And with that, this is Dave and Brian signing off.
See you next week.
Do you want to be on Silent? Make your voice heard on our social media channels and share where you think we got it right or wrong. Go to unsilentpodcast.com for social links so you can join the discussion.